I had that snowball that you gave me for a while and never really used it much.
And now you could.
I would say these are like state of the art.
Yeah, at least we believe that.
We believe that these are state of the art.
Yeah,
aren't these good? Good microphones.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
Me too. Dutch Americana.
Yeah. What do you think of our new backdrop?
I like it.
You like that?
Yeah.
I ordered that off Amazon for $20. Hey, yeah, bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the black symbolize anything, or?
No, they just asked me, what background I wanted, and for lack of anything else, I just said black.
You should iron it.
I know it's wrinkled. Should I take it down? You know what I put up there last time? I put up the painting that we have out there.
I saw that.
Jesus stuff,
yeah.
and
but it has the wrong mission statement on it.
Well, I didn't really.
Did you notice that?
I just wanted something up on the board behind me, and I didn't.
Remember, because everybody was using for preparing forever.
Yeah,
I think
that's
Jim Hoffman
equipping.
It's equipping, so they made it. Because that was made by the Sturgeon kid.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. Who went into graphic designer arts and
All right. Well, I take that. If it looks bad.
It's way
Does it
good.
look okay?
You go.
It's good.
It's good.
All right, and
the
I know
the camera will erase any wrinkles.
Yeah, Alex does a good job editing those things out for sure. So, all right, you let me know when you're ready to go, and we're ready to go.
Welcome to the Pointe podcast. The Pointe is brought to you by NorthPointe's Bible Department as an outreach for NorthPointe Christian Schools and for outside listeners curious to know more about the grand story of God and the Bible. We're so glad you joined us. So let's just get to the point.
Well, welcome back to the Pointe podcast. It's good to have you all back. And today, my guest is, our guest, I would say, is Bill Van Dyke. He is the head of a program here called Big Picture Learning. It's kind of a school within a school, a groundbreaking approach to learning that moves beyond textbook and test into the real world. And so it's good to have him. And then Todd Talsma, who is my friend for many, many years and principal here at our head of schools here at our school. Used to be principal. Todd is also very integral in this school within a school. And was going to help out with asking some questions, but I might also pose some questions to Todd, like why is he wearing green when he's a Michigan fan? But we'll deal with that later. No, it's St. Patrick's Day today.
I would love to tell you that I put this on intentionally. I was just cold.
And you want to keep from being pinched. Which
yes,
I understand
exactly.
that. So, all right. Well, Bill, I want to start off with a question here. And this can be you and Todd kind of coming in together on this one, is what inspired NorthPointe to adopt this innovative model, and what makes it so different from traditional high school experience?
A great question. It's really a question that should be directed to Todd, because he was the one that came up with the reason to have it here at NorthPointe Christian. So
all right, well, let me move over here, Todd. Then, so how did all this come together, Todd?
Yeah, Bill came to. We actually met. Coincidentally, right?
Okay.
I
providentially.
Believe I think it was providentially at Herman's Boy of all places. And
what is this?
Herman's Boy. It's a coffee shop in Rockford.
Oh, okay.
And so he just said, I had run into him there, and it wasn't like Bill and I were close at that time.
Okay.
And I knew life was changing for him. And he says, hey, I got an idea.
Was he the head of schools
at Zeeland Christian? And I think he was just transitioning out of that because he had new ideas that he wanted to do.
Okay.
And Big Picture was one of them. He goes, hey, can we have a chance to meet? So we met. And I was intrigued with the idea because I'm not a huge fan of status quo all the time, as you're aware.
No
We're constantly moving, right? And but I thought, hey, I don't think it's enough just to be a Christian school. Mm-hmm. And we think that every child is uniquely made in the image of God. Right. Why are we educating them all the same?
Yep.
And so this program, Bill presented it to me, and then there was a couple of key stakeholders on our board at the time. And so Bill and I had lunch with them, and they thought this could fit at NorthPointe. Mm-hmm. And nobody else was doing it. And so it was a risk. Right. And that it would eventually become self-sufficient. And today, looking where we were at 8 years ago, and to where we're at today is truly remarkable. And now it's a part of our fabric and how we do school. And I think BPL influences the traditional, for lack of a better term, the traditional program, and vice versa. The traditional has impacted the BPL program, so they've both adapted so that it becomes a part of NorthPointe Christian.
Okay. Now, Bill, this is not something you were doing at Zeeland, but it's what sparked the idea?
Yeah. It's something I thought about doing at Zeeland, but that community wasn't ready. I presented to Todd, I presented to Holland Christian, I presented to Calvin Christian, and Todd was the one that jumped on it first. And the main reason for it was that I had 8th graders coming into my office saying, I hate to do school. And I was like, well, I'm really sorry, but you have to do school anyway. Those kids then took off to high school, and about half of them ended up getting expelled in the first 6 months they were in high school. They didn't like it. They showed they didn't like it, and the high school administration said, we don't want you to be part of our school anymore. So I thought, instead of just talking to those kids and telling them, sorry, you have to do high school, I should do something about it and try to present or invent a high school program that would meet their needs and that they would stick with. And we've had some amazing kids here at NorthPointe. Right. That I don't think would have been part of a high school program here if it wasn't for big picture learning. So I feel pretty good about the fact that we're actually meeting the needs of kids who traditional education probably wouldn't meet their needs.
So it's recognizing the individuality of each of the kids, created in God's image, of course. It's tailoring an education to that individuality. But at the same time, it's still involving the academic or the traditional schooling that we offer here at NorthPointe Christian. So what are the skills that students gain that they wouldn't normally gain in a traditional classroom? What is that?
For lack of a better term, I would say adulting skills.
Okay.
They go out into the real world, they find out what they might be interested in. In some cases, they find out what they're definitely not interested in. Mm-hmm. We had a girl who thought she was going to be a veterinarian. They stuck a needle in the cat the first day that she was there. Fluid came out, she passed out, fell on the floor, and said, I don't want to be a vet. So kids find out what they're good at, find out what they're not necessarily good at, and they learn to talk with adults, to work with adults, and it's in 3 cases to get fired from their internship like an adult. So again, if kids can learn those skills in high school, it potentially saves them from making some major mistakes after they're out of high school, potentially married with a family and with a lot of responsibility.
Okay.
I was going to just add one thing. A lot of people think this is just for kids who struggle in school, and it's not.
Right.
We've, in fact, I remember one of our students who has since graduated from here scored the highest on the PSAT or the SAT, and I would have never guessed that. But they just learn differently. Yeah. And so I think that's the beauty of this program. We have people that want to go into the medical field, different professions, and we have some people that say, hey, I want to go into a skilled trade. And others who will say, I'm going to go into ministry, that have been in this. And so I think what it does is it exposes them maybe to their giftedness earlier than what they would have if, and also for in this day and age too, the 4-year college where everybody had to go to that track, right?
Yeah.
Before that was the big push.
Yeah.
And it's still really important for the majority of our kids. But you look at it today, society has changed. Yeah. Even companies are saying, hey, I'll take you now so we can train you the way that we want to do it versus having you spend a couple $100,000 on college and now we've still got to retrain you.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. If they're being trained in that way and then they're coming right into the workforce and you're not getting that student debt that you know how that is. I mean, we both grew up, I think, having to take out loans and things like that and pay that back.
Right.
And so it is a great option. As far as the traditional school goes and what we offer here, how do you balance giving students the freedom that they have within meeting the academic requirements that we have here at NorthPointe Christian? Because they're not just taken out of the classroom and put into the workforce. They're balancing those things.
Right. Yeah. So some of the students are in class, the traditional class, 3 days a week. 2 days a week, there's other kids that take notes for them, and they learn from those kids what they need to learn. But more importantly, the philosophy of Big Picture says that kids need to learn how to think, not what to think. So instead of covering subjects that are like 2 miles wide and then 2 inches deep, we teach kids how to go 2 miles deep and not nearly as wide. So the kids are learning how to think so that when they go out into the real world, they've got the skills that they need. So we cover all the subjects that they cover in traditional school, but not as broad as traditional school, but we go deeper in areas that the kids are interested in.
Okay. And tell me this, you think of like a moment in this program, this big picture program, that made you think this is why we do what we do?
Yeah, I could think of 100 different moments, but one that Todd reminded me of earlier is a student who probably was averaging a D minus in school, did not like school, but we basically held his hand and said, come on, you got to finish it up. You've got to get through those 4 years. And then he took the SAT and forgot his graphing calculator, which is not surprising, and scored the highest of any kid in that class on the SAT. And I pulled him aside later and said, you've been messing with us. You know, you're a super smart kid, but you're still getting Ds. And he in turn said, I would have dropped out of high school if it wasn't for big picture. So a really smart kid, not doing exceptionally well in school, but having the ability to do super well. And now he's out in the real world, buying real estate, selling real estate, and we're all going to be working for him someday.
That's for sure. What kinds of community partnerships are out there? You know, who are you partnering with in this big picture program?
Yeah, just right off the bat, Frederick Meyer Gardens was amazing. They jumped in with both feet. They had their lawyer sort of vet the program, say, is it something that we can do? And ever since then, we've had a kid there. We've also had many students at Chick-fil-A, and it's just a fantastic place to send kids because it teaches them manners, basically, how to be polite, customer service, those kind of things. But we also have a student that's at Zinger Sheet Metal Welding. We have a student that was roofing a couple of years ago for a contractor. So a lot of kids in garages doing mechanical stuff, car repair, but kids at veterinary offices who want to go into medicine. There's 51 students out there right now, and all but 3 of them have an internship in a company that does something that they think they might want to do someday.
And we had a couple of our big picture students that built a deck on the back of the school. They did ask permission for that, didn't they?
They did, you know, and they are because several had before them said, oh, we want to do something like that, and never followed through. These 2 young men had the initiative and the stick-to-itiveness.
And the skills.
And the skills. I mean, I came here one day, it was on a snow day, actually, and I came, and those 2 young men were building the deck. Because they knew they had a deadline to meet. And, you know, yes, we didn't have school, but, you know, contractors are still working in those type of situations. And so they fulfilled what they needed to do, and they really did a high quality level job. And now they're going to, and they were able to get it completely funded on their own. So we didn't fund it for them. That was part of their project, and now they're actually going to landscape it as well, and so finish it off before they leave, and so they're leaving a little legacy behind, which I think is pretty cool, and it will impact our community.
I just, on the theme of legacy there, I had one of here at our school, we have a senior presentation that each of the seniors give, and the big picture program, they do a little something different, but it's a little more intense, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm going to ask you about that here in a moment, but just to an aside here, I had one of my mentos, and he actually built a chapel out in the woods right off of here. My good friend Dr. Vander Kolk, who taught with me for 20 plus years and passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, that was dedicated to him. And it was a beautiful chapel out in the woods. I believe it's still there. And he made me a couple articles for my room as well. I've got a book stand and a coffee stand, because I always need my coffee stand that's there. And I just really appreciated what he did, and the kind of person, I think that's the kind of person that you're looking for in this program, that really pours themselves into the program, and then it's very evident that they have done that. But I want to talk about, again, back to the senior presentations. What is different in the senior presentations that just kind of normally we say to the kids, okay, here's your senior presentation and how you ought to give it with the big picture program? What does it look like with big picture?
So students in big picture, starting in their junior year already, do a lot of self-examination and say, what can I provide to NorthPointe Christian that's going to make a difference not only for me, but for other people. And like what Travis did with the chapel, it made a difference for him because he built it, but it also made a difference for a lot of other people. And we still bring kids out there to have group meetings and basically to worship. But all the big picture kids in their junior year come up with something that is important to them that'll make a difference. And then they also then have to present that at the beginning of their senior year to what we call a Shark Tank, which local business people come in, they listen to the kids' pitch of what they want to do, and then the local business people either decide we'll give them a certain amount of money, but more importantly, they give them advice. They say, that project makes a lot of sense, or no, you're never going to go with that project. So the deck was one of those projects that the kids presented. They got most of it funded, and then they had to go out and get additional donations. But another student, there's a major problem in the United States with not enough bees, because bees are dying off, and they're so important for pollination. So another student has a project. She wants to put a bee box, I guess, for lack of a better term, out in the retention pond, on the far end of the retention pond. So she talked to Mr. Brewster and talked to a bunch of other people, and they're going to go ahead and put a bee box out there with all sorts
Darwin will be cursing you as he's mowing the lawn. He's attacked by the bees.
We spent a lot of time talking about whether the bees are going to behave or not, and we're only going to have NorthPointe bees out there that behave. So we promise that.
But I think the cool thing is that you guys, because that senior's leaving.
Yeah.
Right. So who's going to take care of it after the fact?
Yeah.
And so, they've already built that relationship with a bee farmer who's going to come in and make sure that it's maintained, and maybe another student can then take that project on moving forward. So versus, now it's one more thing for NorthPointe to take care of, right?
Right.
And so those are the things that I think are exciting. And so there's developed a real partnership, but it's also given kids an ownership in their education as well. And and I love the fact, but we modified the big picture learning program from what it's done nationally. Usually they do all their classes, but we made it fit NorthPointe.
That's right.
To the point where, hey, it's so important for them to receive the biblical aspects, and so each of those kids take the regular Bible class, so that, because we feel that that's foundational, right? And that's going to help them launch into the world as well, whether it be into the workplace or into the college that they move on. So I think, Bill and his team have been really flexible in adapting the program to make it fit NorthPointe versus just saying, here's the big picture learning. You guys got to take it as is, but no, let's modify it and to make it work and most effective for NorthPointe.
Been great to work with too. Okay, now we're going to get down to brass tacks here, Bill.
There we go.
Right? I told you no softball questions toward the end. It's going to be curveballs, sliders, maybe a fastball down the middle. So give me some of the biggest challenges in running the big picture program.
The single biggest challenge is tradition. Traditional education is obviously traditional, and everybody who was ever a student went through traditional school. So parents are hesitant to say, I'm going to put my child in a program that's innovative and creative. They had traditional education. They turned out really well, at least according to them, and they want the same thing for their kids. So that's one of the big challenges. Another big challenge is the social side of it, is that students, especially girls, especially freshmen, want to be with their friends. And if their friends are going into big picture, fantastic, they're willing to go. If their friends are in traditional school, we can tell them, you'll see them at lunch, you'll see them before school, after school, on the basketball court, whatever, and they still say, I want to be with my friends. So those would be the two biggest challenges.
So you're finding more with the big picture program that students are coming in as juniors, seniors and doing it, or?
Most of them come in as freshmen, and once kids are sort of established in big picture or established in traditional school, there's very little. There's some crossover, but very little, and less the longer the program's around.
Okay. All right. So challenges, innovations you're hoping to implement in the future with big picture, anything?
I just see the future of education as people saying, I talk to lots of business people, and asking them if they're willing to do internships. And they say kids are these days that high schools turn out kids that are amazing rule followers, that they do exactly what the boss tells them to do, which is great. But when it comes to creative thinking or problem solving, kids don't have a clue what to do, so they go running to the boss every time there's a problem. And the boss is like, please teach these kids problem-solving skills. So one of the big things Big Picture is looking at is we want to have kids come out of Big Picture and out of NorthPointe Christian as a whole as being kids that know how to solve problems. We have a partnership right now with Cornerstone across the street, where our sophomores go over and they have a class on innovative thinking and creative thinking. So that's another big part of the program that Scott Hoffman, who's the lead teacher, is really promoting at this point.
Are the colleges doing anything with this? I mean, like a Cornerstone, are they thinking?
Cornerstone is way ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Don Perini is the professor over there that's done this program. And he has kids that are juniors that have gone through his program on creative thinking. And businesses come in over to Cornerstone and say, we want to hire you now before you even graduate, because this it's so valuable for us to have employees that can actually see a problem, come up with a solution, and then implement it.
Okay. Todd?
Questions for Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What you got?
yeah, well, the biggest thing, when Bill came here, we knew there was a certain longevity for Bill. I mean, he and I aren't getting any younger. Okay.
All three of
You go
us.
ahead and broach this topic.
And,
Go ahead.
and this is a part of Bill's legacy, right? As far as, he built something really, really good out at Zeeland Christian. He was there for, 30 plus years?
29 years.
Almost 30 years. And then, he's made a profound impact at NorthPointe in his 8 years here, as well as being a great friend. He and I have had many conversations because he sat in my chair, and so he's been a great resource. But we
Has he ever invited you out to fish at his pond?
He has not, but
Well,
I have had dinner at his pond. Yeah, I've had dinner with him over there. Yeah,
He has his own pond.
Oh, he does. I haven't been invited to that.
Thanks, Bill. Now I got another invite to send. But I think sometimes it's hard to leave a program, right? When you've developed it, built it, and now you got to leave it. Bill, tell us, what is your transition plan for BPL, and why do you feel it's the right time for that to happen?
Yeah.
So the transition plan has been in place probably for 3 years already, and it's talking to Scott Hoffman, who's the lead teacher, saying, you're going to take this program over at some point. Last year, he did a lot more of the finding businesses that would take kids, and now this year is our formal transition year, where I'm basically turning over the entire program to him, and he's just going to do an amazing job because he got into education, taught math, and didn't like it because he had to teach 120 kids. He then went into special education so that he could just teach 8 to 10 kids, and then he found out about Big Picture and jumped in with both feet.
Yeah,
so
he did
Scott is the perfect person to continue the program, and I feel really good about the fact that he gets it, and if anything, he's going to advance the program and make it better than what it was before, and pretty excited about that. So I'm ready to ride off into the sunset and maybe help another school get a Big Picture program up and running.
Yeah. So the Big Picture program, just to kind of wrap things up here, really redefining success, empowering students to take ownership of their education and preparing them for life beyond high school. And I think that we've done a great job in doing that, and I appreciate your work here and your friendship here, and Todd as well. And we just want to say thanks for tuning in, and I hope you got the point.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Point. I'm your producer, Alex Sigma. And if you enjoyed the episode, be sure to rate us on Spotify and share this podcast with others. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Spotify. We'll see you on the next episode.